Deputy Minister, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to be here today to participate in this innovative forum. Finding myself in such a dynamic setting, I'm feeling very young, and despite my age. I'm really glad to share my experience with you. I've been working for more than 30 years with an international organization, the OECD, which deals a lot with economic cooperation, but also with innovation, and which is increasingly responsive to the big problems of society lying ahead, which is human capital development, green growth, climate change, and even constructing an index for human and societal well-being beyond the BNP measurement techniques. So, in preparing this event, how is it working? Next slide. Okay. Okay, fine. This one. No? Okay. I'm not familiar. I let you do it. Okay, next slide. In preparing this event, I was very much inspired by the Taiwan Golden Decade Vision of July 2012. It is a strategy for innovation. It is a strategy for human development. It is based on openness and recognition of the global investment climate. So it is a forward-looking strategy which paves the way ahead. And this is totally in line with the international thinking and the experience, for example, which you can find in the OECD white paper on science and technological innovation, and investment in knowledge, capital growth, and innovation, OECD this year. But there are also two other documents I would like to draw your attention to. One is the action plan of this year's OECD Ministerial, the action plan for youth, and another document which provides an overview of country experience within the European Union on youth entrepreneurship. Documents which are very relevant to your thinking here in Taiwan. Taiwan is actually at a crossroad. The Deputy Minister mentioned there's some concern about losing steam, about losing competitiveness. So a new approach, a forward-looking approach, will be necessary to revitalize the economy, to pave the way for the future. Next slide, please. Okay. Okay, good. Now, an overview of my presentation. The first point is about the role of SMEs as drivers for innovation and economic development. But SMEs are suffering from a great deal of fragility and vulnerability, and this is demonstrated largely by the experience of the recent and still ongoing financial and economic crisis. There's the challenge to close the financial gap for SMEs, and for that purpose, I'm going to present you some models for entrepreneurial finance which have been successful or less successful at times, and this should help us learn from experience and identifying the keys for success. I would like to conclude my presentation with some ideas on the way forward and the relevance of this experience for Taiwan. Next slide, please. SMEs are drivers for economic growth and development. They are accounting for more than 90% of all business enterprises all over the world, with a significant share in value creation and employment. They do have considerable potential for innovation and exports as well. But they have been severely affected by the global economic and financial crisis. And therefore, governments have been motivated to take specific support measures in favor of SMEs. Next slide, please. Sources of financial fragility of SMEs. they are suffering from a high perception of risk, from the scarcity of working capital, and they have been subject to the credit crunch occurring during the financial crisis, which means high interest rates, high collateral requirements, and high rates of credit and loan rejections. There is not enough equity capital available, or sometimes equity capital is totally unavailable. And there has been a high insolvency rate, which has increased during the financial crisis. Next slide, please. Now, what have been the key government support measures in favor of SMEs? First of all, a number of countries have adjusted their insolvency procedures to save enterprises suffering from a temporary crisis, basically liquidity crisis. So there have been new debtor protection measures and encouragement of voluntary restructuring schemes. It has been recognized that in a dynamic society, risk and failure at times are current features. There is a proverb which says, try and fail, no matter, try again, fail better. So that is reflecting a philosophy of risk taking. Well, in the context of these support measures for SMEs, there have been measures to provide for deferred payment of debts, debt moratoria, but also deferred payment of taxes. Direct lending schemes have been either reintroduced or reinforced. There has been an expansion of credit guarantee mechanisms and a new innovative form of credit mediation has been introduced in some countries. Next slide, please. I would like to draw your attention to a very interesting OECD publication, the OECD Scoreboard for Financing of SMEs and Entrepreneurs. It provides a comprehensive framework for comparative assessment of financial measures relevant for SMEs, and core indicators to measure trends in SME debt and equity finance, solvency and policy measures by government. So this publication can be a source of inspiration because it is based on 25 country profiles on SME finance and is establishing cross-country comparability on recent trends. So it is quite a recommendable source of inspiration. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, measures for support to entrepreneurial finance. First of all, I'm going to say a few words on credit guarantee schemes. Second, on credit mediation, in particular the French experience. Impact investment and socially responsible investment. And finally, the concept of enterprise funds and the experience with such financial mechanisms. Next slide, please. Well, public lending schemes are being applied in a number of countries in favor of SMEs. Examples which are very well known, for example, the German Kreditanstalt für Wiederaufbau, and which has been imitated recently by France through the setting up of the Banque Publique d'Investissement, a public financing institution for startups, innovative enterprises, and small and medium-sized enterprises. Some countries have introduced for their banking system specific lending targets in favor of SMEs, Ireland being a case in point. And there have been public and mutual guarantee schemes. There's a particular successful experience in Korea with the Technology Finance Corporation, which provides guarantees but also provides assistance and advice to entrepreneurs in managing their indebtedness problems. Next slide, please. Now, impact financing, socially responsible finance. This is a new trend, and it is a promising trend. It deals with problems arising at the bottom of the pyramid. Low-income entrepreneurs, financing in favor of low-income classes, but also finance which is socially responsible to address environmental and social concerns, and the development of microfinance institutions. There is an article in the newspaper today pointing out that even the United States is now benefiting from microfinance. It's an expanding business because in the United States you have now 40 million people below the poverty line. So the Grameen Bank scheme, which has been developed in Bangladesh, suddenly becomes relevant for the United States as well. Now, the traditional management model is based on science, technology, and economic management, STEM. If you add to this human sciences and art, you will generate STEAM. And STEAM is what we need for future economic development. But impact financing, socially responsible business still has to remain business and to be financially viable in the long term. Next slide, please. The French system of credit mediation is a very interesting model because the credit mediation bureaus, socially, regional decentralized bodies, serve as intermediaries between the government and financial institutions. They intervene on the demand of enterprises whose credit applications have been rejected. Now, this is a very unbureaucratic structure, quick intervention, and effective mediation. One estimates that more than 150,000 jobs has been saved in 1 year during the financial crisis through the intervention of these offices. Next slide, please. Enterprise funds for startups and innovation. A very interesting concept. They are composed of 3 key elements. First of all, there's public seed money. Second, this public seed money, the engagement of public institutions, serves to leverage the attraction of private capital. But private capital can only be attracted if there are viable business plans, if there is sound professional management. And management needs to be independent to be effective, independent from government and political interference. Now, these enterprise funds also have a dualistic mission. They provide finance, but they also provide advice to entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs to develop viable business plans. Now, what has been the experience? There's been a positive experience, in particular in Central and Eastern Europe, Poland, for example. The Polish Enterprise Fund, which is based by an initial capital injection from USAID, was able to provide more than 300 million equity capital to Polish SMEs and provide loans of about the same dimension to SMEs. When the fund was terminated, because the financial system in Poland now is capable of managing these problems, the initial capital outlay was returned to the investor, US government, US Treasury, with a considerable appreciation. And part of this additional value was channeled into a fund, into a foundation, to continue providing support for SME development and scholarship as well for vocational training. So this is a highly successful exercise. There has been a less successful exercise in South Africa, where a similar concept failed actually after 10 years of operation, and with a loss and depreciation of the initial capital. But the reasons were also clear, because the mission of that fund was not quite clarified. It was not channeled always into viable business projects. There was political interference by political figures in the United States. I don't want to quote names, but also US aid administrators who were not always very competent in the management matters. And the capital was too thinly spread over a large variety of operations. So that serves as a lesson as well. These problems were avoided in the Polish concept, so we can see what keys of success we can retain for similar operations. Now, keys of success, next slide please. We need risk sharing between public and financial institutions. Responsible finance needs always to be oriented by long-term financial viability, not charity, but business. We need competent and accountable management and transparent corporate governance structures. And there has to be a system of indicators to monitor results. What is the way forward? Next slide, please. We need to continue work on comparable and timely data on SME finance to assess the situation, to detect gaps, and to have alerts of potential problems. The transparency and control of the banking system needs to be improved. That means, in my view, separation between commercial banking activities and market activities in separate institutions. There are reforms underway in the European Union to achieve that goal. We need to encourage sustainable investment. I mentioned impact investment, socially responsible investment funds. We need to promote specialized instruments for entrepreneurial finance and improve generally the business environment for innovative reforms and commercial innovation. Last slide. What does this mean for Thailand? For Taiwan? First of all, important element, we have to improve knowledge. It would be useful for Taiwan to continue to conduct a similar scoreboard exercise on SME finance as it has been conducted by the OECD for 25 other countries. It is necessary to step up entrepreneurial education and training at all levels of the education system. You can even start at primary school, moving up to the secondary and university level. And this means that ideally work-related experience at all levels of education should be combined with classroom learning to be really relevant to promote employability of young people leaving the school system. Next slide. We need to look at markets. Ensure competitive market conditions for innovation. This means lowering market barriers, entry barriers in markets for new ventures and innovative enterprises. Prevent incumbent large firms with outdated technology to prevent actually market entry by new competitors. Prevent the abuse of intellectual property rights for anti-competitive purposes. For example, in the United States, again, there are now patent pools, not inventors, but commercial firms who buy up patents just for the purpose of litigation. Very abusive system, which needs to be looked at with great concern. Then we need to develop, in order to organize better the market functioning, develop a private and public partnership for risk management and performance. Finally, last slide. We need effective institutions, which means create innovative financial schemes, combining public seed capital, private investment, and professional management. Encourage cooperative systems of corporate governance, stakeholder orientation of corporate governance. Resource providers are not only investors, are also employees. And there's a social objective of business operation, which also has to take into account national development objectives and the local environment. Finally, we need to have a comprehensive and transparent system for evaluation of support policies. In conclusion, the experience which I've exposed to you today seems relevant as Taiwan moves forward to an innovative economy based on human development, human capital development. This means political will. It also means a coherence in dealing with a broad range of cross-cutting issues. We need an integrated, multidisciplinary approach where all ministries, the Labor Department, but also other ministries in the economic field cooperate under the coordination by the center of government. As Deputy Minister Hao has suggested, let us leave the beaten tracks. Let us be innovative, dynamic, forward-looking, and efficient in management. I, some time ago, discussed with a Swiss guru on management, not Raymond, but somebody else, what makes the success of economic and social management. He said you need three things. First of all, positive thinking of the main actors concerned. Second, effective and open communication networks. And third, a critical mass of like-minded people. If you achieve this critical mass at 7% within an institution, you can change the world. Xie xie, pan yu men.
Okay, thank you.